Impossible, Dai muttered, watching through his remaining hunter's helmet feeds. The human had spread animal blood on the trees, confusing their thermal sensors. He'd started fires upwind, the smoke disrupting their visibility filters. Princess Hannah watched from their hidden shelter as Taiho worked. She saw now why her people's dismissal of primitive species was a mistake. The hunter had become the hunted. Taiho led the aliens through the worst terrain, steep cliffs, thick brush, and rushing streams. Their fancy boots slipped on wet rocks, their helmets got tangled in branches, and their energy weapons lost power faster in the cold mountain air. By sunset, Commander Dai was down to his last 2 hunters. He paced in his ship, rage-building. How could one human outmaneuver his elite squad? "Sir," a hunter called through static. "We've found there." The transmission cut off in a burst of gunfire. In the forest, Taiho retrieved the alien weapons from the fallen hunters. He didn't understand how they worked, but he understood how they failed. Sometimes, the oldest tricks worked best against the newest technology. Commander Day finally decided to join the hunt himself. His pride couldn't take this humiliation. He armed himself with the best weapons and armor in his arsenal. But as he stepped into the forest, he felt something he hadn't experienced in years. Fear. Somewhere in these mountains, a primitive human was waiting, and for the first time, Dai wondered if his technology would be enough. The hunt had changed. The predator had become prey, and the primitive had proven himself the superior warrior. As night fell over the mountains, Taiho smiled. Tomorrow would bring another battle. But for now, he had shown that humanity's so-called primitive skills could overcome any advanced technology. In their shelter, Princess Hannah watched him clean his simple rifle and realized that true advancement wasn't about technology. It was about adaptability, creativity, and the will to survive. Understanding. Taiho's cabin became a sanctuary of learning for both the princess and the soldier. In the mornings, while they watched the sunrise over the mountains, Hannah would scan through his collection of history books with her translation device. "Your people went from horse-drawn carriages to space rockets in just over a century," she asked one morning, looking up from an old history book. Her fingers traced the images of the Wright brothers' first flight. Taiho nodded, pouring them both hot tea. "We adapt quickly when we need to. It's how we've survived." He showed her his laptop, filled with documentaries and educational videos. Hannah was fascinated by everything, from ancient Egyptian pyramids to modern smartphones. Her own civilization had taken thousands of years longer to achieve similar advances. In the Confederation, she explained, stirring honey into her tea, technology develops slowly. Every change must be approved by councils and committees. It took us 3 centuries just to improve our faster-than-light drives. As days passed, they developed a routine. Mornings were for history lessons, afternoons for survival training. Taiho taught her how to move silently through the forest, how to track animals, and how to find safe plants to eat. She was a quick learner, her royal education helping her memorize details easily. In return, Hannah taught him about the stars. She explained how different alien civilizations lived, their customs, their beliefs. Sometimes, they would sit on the cabin's roof at night, and she would point out worlds she had visited. "My father calls Earth primitive," she said one evening, watching Taiho cook dinner over a simple wood stove. "But I see now that simplicity isn't weakness. Your people have something we've lost: the ability to survive with whatever is available." Their conversations grew deeper as trust built between them. Taiho shared stories from his military days, while Hannah spoke about the loneliness of royal life. Despite coming from different worlds, they found common ground in their experiences of duty and sacrifice. One rainy afternoon, as they sat by the fireplace, Hannah noticed something. "You don't treat me like a princess," she said. "It's refreshing." Taiho smiled. "Out here, titles don't matter much. The mountain doesn't care if you're royal or common. You either learn to survive, or you don't." They laughed together at their cultural misunderstandings, Hannah's attempts to use chopsticks, Taiho's amazement at her holographic entertainment devices. Each day, the gap between their worlds grew smaller. "Your people aren't primitive at all," Hannah declared one evening. "You're just different. Maybe that's what my father and the Confederation need to understand." Crouching behind a fallen tree, Taiho watched the scene unfold. His eyes widened at the sight. A young woman in strange clothing stood with her back against twisted metal wreckage. She held up what looked like a glowing bracelet, projecting a flickering blue shield of energy between her and 5 mountain wolves. The wolves circled her, testing the barrier. Each time they touched it, sparks flew, but Taiho could see the shield getting weaker. The woman spoke in a language he didn't understand, her voice steady despite the fear in her eyes. The largest wolf lunged just as the shield flickered out completely. Without thinking, Taiho vaulted over the log. Years of combat training took over as he positioned himself between the woman and the pack. The alpha wolf snarled, showing yellowed fangs. Taiho drew his hunting knife, its polished blade catching the morning light. He knew the rules of this dance. Show no fear, make no sudden moves. "Easy now," he muttered in Korean, slowly shifting his stance. The woman behind him had gone quiet, watching. The alpha charged. Taiho sidestepped, using the wolf's momentum against it. His knife found its mark, opening a shallow cut along the wolf's flank. The animal yelped, breaking off its attack. 2 more wolves came at him from different angles. Taiho dropped and rolled, slashing at one's legs while kicking out at the other. His boots connected with solid muscle, sending the wolf tumbling. The fight lasted less than a minute. Taiho moved like water, never staying still, his knife a silver blur. He didn't aim to kill, just convince the pack this prey wasn't worth the trouble. Finally, the alpha retreated, limping slightly. The others followed, disappearing into the forest with angry growls. Taiho cleaned his knife in the snow before turning to the woman. She was beautiful in a strange way, with features that seemed almost too perfect. Her clothes looked like something from a sci-fi movie. "Are you hurt?" he asked in Korean, then tried in English when she didn't respond. She spoke again in her odd language, then pulled out a small device. After pressing some buttons, she spoke again, this time in heavily accented Korean. "I am Princess Hannah of the Galactic Confederation. Thank you for saving my life, brave warrior." Taiho blinked. Either this was an elaborate prank, or his quiet life in the mountains had just gotten much more interesting. Looking at the wreckage of what was clearly a spaceship and the now-dead energy shield device on her wrist, he knew this was no prank. His years of military training hadn't prepared him for this. "We should go," he said, scanning the sky. "If you crashed, others might come looking." Princess Hannah nodded, understanding the logic even across language barriers. As they headed back toward his cabin, Taiho wondered what kind of trouble he was getting himself into. But watching her pick her way carefully through the snow in those impractical clothes, he knew he couldn't have done anything else. Some things were just right, even if they made no sense at all. Hunters become hunted. Commander Day stood on his ship's bridge, watching Earth grow larger on the view screen. His tracking systems had picked up Princess Hannah's emergency beacon, leading him to this backwater planet. What should have been a simple retrieval was now entering its 3rd day. "Status report." He barked at his squad of elite hunters. "The princess's signal is coming from these mountains," his second-in-command said, pointing to a topographical map. "But there's interference. These mountains have unusual magnetic properties." Day frowned. "They're advanced scanners, usually precise enough to spot a needle in a solar system. We're struggling with Earth's natural magnetic fields." The hunters deployed in their stealth suits, carrying plasma rifles and motion trackers. They moved through the forest like ghosts, their active camouflage bending light around them. But Taiho was ready. He had spent 2 days preparing the forest. Years of military experience had taught him that superior technology had its weaknesses. The magnetic rocks in these mountains disrupted their scanners, and the dense canopy limited their visibility. The first trap was simple, a tripwire attached to a fallen log. When the invisible hunter hit it, the log swung down from the trees. The impact shattered the stealth suit's projectors, revealing the alien hunter. Before he could react, Taiho's well-aimed shot from his hunting rifle took him down. Commander Dai watched in disbelief as his squad's signals went dark one by one. This primitive human was using the environment against them. When one hunter fell into a covered pit, his plasma rifle's power core overloaded in the water at the bottom, creating an electromagnetic pulse that disabled 3 more hunters' suits. Princess Hannah stood at her bedroom window, watching the twin moons rise over the crystal spires of the imperial palace. Her long black hair flowed freely, no longer bound by the traditional royal headpiece. Tonight would be her last night as a prisoner in this golden cage. The marriage announcement still echoed in her mind from this morning's court session. Her father, Emperor Jin, had declared her betrothal to Warlord Q of the Centauri system, a man known for his cruelty and thirst for power. She had seen the gleam in the warlord's eyes as he appraised her like a prized possession. "Your Highness," her personal AI assistant whispered through her neural implant. "The guards have changed shifts. The maintenance corridor is clear." Hannah took a deep breath and grabbed her pre-packed bag. The plan she had worked on for months was finally in motion. Her royal robes were replaced with a practical flight suit, and a small blaster was strapped to her thigh, a gift from her late mother, who had always encouraged her independence. The maintenance corridors were dark and dusty, unused by the palace's cleaning drones. Hannah moved silently, her heart pounding with each step. Years of secret combat training with her bodyguard paid off as she avoided the security sensors. The royal hangar was surprisingly easy to reach. The guards never expected the precious princess to know about the service tunnels, let alone use them. Her target was the prototype stealth ship her father had commissioned, the fastest vessel in the known galaxy. "Alert! Alert!" The palace-eyes voice boomed through the hangar. Unauthorized access detected in Royal Hangar Bay 7. Hannah sprinted to the ship, her access codes already transmitted. The boarding ramp lowered just as guards burst through the main doors, plasma rifles raised. "Princess Hannah, step away from the vessel," Commander Lee's voice carried across the hangar. She dove inside as plasma bolts sizzled past her head. The ship's engines roared to life, and within seconds, she broke through the planet's atmosphere. Imperial fighters scrambled to pursue her, but the stealth ship's advanced systems made her virtually invisible. As she pushed the ship to its limits, heading for the uncharted sectors beyond Imperial space, a warning light began flashing on her console. The experimental drive core was becoming unstable. She had pushed it too hard in her escape. "System failure imminent," the ship's AI announced. Searching for emergency landing sites. A blue planet appeared on her scanner. Earth, listed as a primitive civilization, barely achieving basic spaceflight. The perfect hiding place. But before she could plot a controlled descent, the drive core failed completely. Her ship spun out of control, entering Earth's atmosphere at a dangerous angle. The hull temperature rose rapidly as friction turned the elegant vessel into a falling star. Warning klaxons blared as multiple systems failed. Hannah strapped herself tightly into the pilot's seat, engaging every emergency protocol she knew. The ground rushed up to meet her, a dense forest beneath majestic mountains. "Impact in 10 seconds, the AI announced calmly. "It has been an honor serving you, Princess." Hannah closed her eyes and thought of her mother's last words. Sometimes the greatest adventures begin with a leap into the unknown. The ship crashed through the forest canopy, shearing off trees and leaving a trail of burning debris. It finally came to rest in a small clearing, its once beautiful hull now a twisted wreck of exotic metals and shattered crystal. Inside the cockpit, Hannah hung upside down in her restraints, blood trickling from a cut on her forehead. Through the cracked viewport, she could see Earth's sun rising over the mountains. She had made it. She was free. But freedom, she would soon learn, came with its own challenges. And somewhere in these mountains, a human named Taiho was about to have his world turned upside down by a princess who fell from the stars. The beginning of her greatest adventure had just begun. The primitive savior. Taiho Kim sat on his cabin's porch at dawn, sipping hot coffee when the sky lit up. A burning object streaked across the morning sky, trailing flames and smoke. His military instincts kicked in immediately. This was no meteor. The ex-ranger grabbed his survival pack and hunting rifle. 10 years in South Korea's special forces had taught him to trust his gut. He pulled on his boots and headed toward the crash site, moving swiftly through the familiar mountain terrain. The trek took him 2 hours, following the path of broken trees and scattered debris. The air smelled of burnt metal and strange chemicals. As he got closer, he heard sounds that made him freeze. Wolves. But there was something else too. A high-pitched humming he'd never heard before. As weeks passed, their relationship evolved from rescuer and refugee to true friends. They discovered that wisdom could be found in both advanced technology and ancient traditions. In Taiho's simple cabin, surrounded by books, basic tools, and the occasional piece of alien technology, two people from vastly different worlds proved that understanding transcends technological advancement. What started as a rescue had become something more, a bridge between stars. Perhaps, Taiho said one evening, being primitive just means having room to grow. Hana smiled, knowing that her view of the universe had changed forever in this small cabin on a primitive world, the Emperor's Wrath. Emperor Jin's massive fleet darkened Earth's skies, their ships blocking out the sun over major cities. His holographic image appeared worldwide, demanding his daughter's return. Primitives of Earth, his voice boomed across every screen and device. Return Princess Hana immediately, or face extinction. You have 1 Earth day to comply. In Seoul, South Korean military leaders gathered for an emergency meeting. Taiho and Hana stood before them, explaining the aliens' weaknesses discovered during their encounters with the bounty hunters. Their technology relies heavily on electromagnetic fields, Taiho explained, showing footage from his mountain battles. Strong EMP pulses can disable their weapons and shields. Colonel Kang, Taiho's former commander, leaned forward, like hitting a computer with lightning. He said, understanding. We can work with that. Within hours, military bases worldwide began modifying their weapons. South Korean engineers, working with Hana's knowledge, converted missile warheads into EMP delivery systems. The first battle came at dawn. Imperial dropships descended on Seoul, their energy shields glowing. Colonel Kang's Special Forces teams waited, hidden in buildings and underground stations. Remember your training. Kang's voice crackled over the radio. Wait for them to land. Their shields are weakest when deploying ground troops. The alien ships landed in formation, their ramps lowering to release armored soldiers. That's when Kang gave the signal. Modified EMP missiles streaked from hidden launchers. The explosions weren't dramatic, just brief flashes of blue light, but the effects were devastating. Alien shields flickered and died. Their advanced weapons went dark. Taiho led a strike team through the confused alien ranks. Their combat training proved invaluable against warriors who had relied too heavily on technology. Simple bullets worked just fine against armor designed to stop energy weapons. Emperor Jin watched in rage as his ground forces were systematically disabled and captured. He ordered his fleet to begin orbital bombardment, but Earth was ready. High-altitude EMP bursts, launched from stealth aircraft, created a web of electromagnetic disruption in the upper atmosphere. Many Imperial ships lost power, their anti-gravity systems failing. They had to retreat to higher orbits or risk falling. Impossible. Jin raged on his flagship. These primitives are nothing. How can they defeat our superior technology? Hana's voice cut through his transmission. Because you underestimated them, Father. Humanity's strength isn't in their technology. It's in their ability to adapt and overcome. The battle raged for hours. Earth's militaries, united for the first time in history, proved that sometimes simpler weapons could defeat advanced technology. Korean special forces, trained in both modern and traditional warfare, led many successful strikes. Colonel Kang's teams performed particularly well, using their knowledge of urban warfare to ambush and disable alien units. They moved through Seoul's subway tunnels, emerging to strike and vanish again. By sunset, the Emperor's invasion force was in chaos. His primitive opponents had not only resisted but were winning. The might of the Confederation, built on centuries of technological superiority, was being defeated by human ingenuity and determination. As night fell over Seoul, Taiho and Kang watched Imperial ships retreating into space. Sometimes, Taiho said, "The simplest solutions are the best." Earth had proven itself. The primitive planet had shown that true power lay not in advanced technology, but in the will and wisdom to use what you have effectively. Emperor Jin faced a choice: escalate to full-scale war or accept that his daughter had found strength in an unexpected place. Revolution. The news spread like wildfire across the galaxy. Earth, a primitive world, had defeated the Emperor's elite forces. Encrypted transmissions carried stories of human ingenuity defeating advanced technology. Hope sparked among countless subjugated species. Taiho, Hana, and Colonel Kang found themselves at the heart of a growing rebellion. Alien resistance fighters sought them out, eager to learn Earth's tactics. Their small group grew into an interstellar alliance. The palace defenses are based on the same systems we defeated on Earth, Hana explained, showing holograms of her former home. But security is tighter, with layers of shields and automated weapons. The rebel planning room buzzed with activity. Earth special forces worked alongside alien warriors, sharing tactics and strategies. Their differences became strengths. Each species brought unique insights. The plan was bold but simple. While rebel fleets engaged the Imperial forces in space, a small team would infiltrate the palace using Hana's knowledge of its secret passages. Their target, the central defense mainframe. The night of the attack came. Taiho led the infiltration team, wearing modified Earth combat gear enhanced with alien tech. Hana guided them through hidden maintenance tunnels she'd used to escape months ago. Guards patrol every 10 minutes, she whispered, using her royal access codes to bypass security gates. The mainframe room is 3 levels down. They encountered their first challenge at a security checkpoint. Imperial guards with energy weapons stood watch. Taiho signaled his team to deploy the EMP devices that had worked so well on Earth. The guards' weapons died instantly. Before they could raise an alarm, Earth's special forces moved in with silent efficiency. Years of close combat training proved deadlier than any energy weapon. As they went deeper into the palace, the team faced increasingly sophisticated defenses. Laser grids, poison gas, and robotic sentries guarded their target. But each obstacle fell to a combination of Earth ingenuity and alien knowledge. Colonel Kang's voice crackled over their comms. "Rebel fleet engaging Imperial forces now. You have 30 minutes. In the mainframe room, Hana worked quickly, her fingers dancing over holographic controls. Taiho watched her back, amazed at how far they'd come from that first meeting in Earth's mountains. "Almost done," she said. "Once the shields drop, the rebels can." Alarms blared. Emperor Jin's voice filled the chamber. "My dear daughter, did you think I wouldn't expect this?" Elite Imperial guards surrounded them. But Taiho smiled. They'd planned for this too. As energy weapons powered up, his team activated their modified EMP devices. The resulting chaos was perfect. Guards with dead weapons faced Earth soldiers trained in hand-to-hand combat. A clash of ancient fighting arts against armored aliens echoed through palace halls. Hana completed her work as Taiho's team held off the guards. Throughout the palace, defense systems went dark. In space, rebel ships broke through the now defenseless Imperial lines. The revolution had succeeded, not through overwhelming force or superior technology, but through the combined strengths of different worlds and cultures. As rebel forces secured the palace, Taiho and Hana shared a quiet moment. "We did it," she said softly. No more primitives, he replied. Just different paths to the same stars. New order. 1 year after the revolution, the galaxy had changed. The Great Hall of the former Imperial Palace now hosted representatives from every world, including Earth. The new Galactic Alliance was built on equality and mutual respect. Tai-Ho adjusted his formal military uniform as he prepared to address the Alliance Council. Beside him, Hannah wore a simple Earth-style suit instead of her royal robes. They had become symbols of the new era. The Alliance recognizes Ambassador Tai-Ho Kim of Earth, announced the council speaker. The chamber fell silent. Looking out at the diverse gathering, humans sitting alongside beings from 100 worlds, Tai-Ho felt proud. His voice carried clear and strong through the hall. A year ago, we proved that progress isn't measured by technology alone. Earth was called primitive because we hadn't mastered faster-than-light travel. But we showed that true advancement comes from here. He touched his heart, and here, he tapped his temple. Former Emperor Jin sat quietly among the council members, no longer wearing his crown. The revolution had taught him humility. He watched his daughter stand beside the man who had changed everything. Earth's integration into galactic society happened faster than anyone expected. Human creativity combined with alien technology led to amazing breakthroughs. Korean special forces trained alien military units in adaptive tactics, while Earth's scientists collaborated with alien researchers. Hannah led the cultural exchange programs. Her experiences on Earth helped bridge the gaps between worlds. She taught other species that different didn't mean inferior. Remember the mountain wolves? She asked Tai-Ho one evening in their apartment overlooking the capital city. How you fought them with just a knife. He nodded, understanding her point. Sometimes the simplest solutions are the most effective. Their stories spread across the stars. Children on distant worlds learned how a primitive human and a rebel princess reshaped the galaxy. The tale became a symbol of hope, proof that courage and wisdom mattered more than technological might. Colonel Kang now led the Alliance's new Adaptive Warfare Academy, teaching military forces to balance technology with basic combat skills. His favorite lesson used footage from Earth's resistance against the Imperial invasion. The changes went beyond politics and military tactics. Societies that had relied too heavily on technology began rediscovering their traditional wisdom. Earth's art, music, and philosophy spread through the galaxy, offering fresh perspectives to ancient civilizations. Tai-Ho and Hannah's relationship also symbolized the new order. Their wedding combined Earth traditions with galactic customs, attended by beings from across the Alliance. Former Emperor Jin gave his blessing, finally understanding that strength comes in many forms. We're all primitive in some ways, Hannah told a group of young diplomats. And we're all advanced in others. True civilization means recognizing and respecting those differences. As they stood on their balcony watching ships dart between glittering towers, Tai-Ho remembered his simple cabin in the Korean mountains. The galaxy had changed, but the lessons remained the same. Adapt, persevere, and never underestimate anyone, including yourself. Their story ended where it began, with two people from different worlds proving that the measure of civilization isn't in its machines, but in its heart. The former princess and the ranger had started a revolution not with advanced weapons, but with courage, wisdom, and the simple belief that everyone deserves respect. The new order thrived, built on the foundation of their legend. And somewhere in the Korean mountains, a small cabin still stood, reminding everyone that sometimes the greatest changes start in the most unexpected places.